Thank you, Holly, because you know I would forget to do that, and I did.
I reminded you.
A
long time ago.
Sorry, folks on Zoom, Kathy is teasing me because I forgot to hit record.
No, I wasn't.
We don't record CAC, so I get confused. All right, folks, so that does bring us to our Senate community values, and I bring this to our attention in part because this will be an item up for review. We like to review them every year, and so we will be reviewing them at our retreat. So for our new and returning senators, these probably look different than what you have seen in your previous experiences here at the Senate. And it's always the sort of job of the academic Senate president to kind of use our community values in part to make sure that we're having productive and welcoming and inclusive conversations here at the Senate, that we're centering ourselves in equity, that we're centering ourselves in students who we serve. And today I really want to highlight community value number 2, because it's personal for me a little bit today. And that is just trust that everybody's doing the best that they can. Which is what I am currently doing. I am doing the very best that I can. So more on that in a moment on how we are doing the best that we can. Acknowledging too that we are in what probably feels like a little bit of an unsettling situation. But we're going to talk and sort out all of the details on how we move forward. So rest assured there is a plan. And I also always will highlight our community value number 6, and that is working with an equity mindset. That is what it's all about. I see equity mindset as being synonymous with a student-centered mindset as well. So let's keep that in mind as we have we have like 7 or 8 discussion items here before the Senate. We want to keep our students in mind. The next item on our agenda is just the rights for the Senate body to, if we need to, take an item out of order. At the moment, I don't know of any, but I reserve the right just in case. This is really crucial because we do have a number of guests and we want to make sure that their time is accommodated for. So that is there.
Item 2.3, should we do approval?
Oh, I forgot about approving the agenda. Can we approve the agenda by acclamation?
Yes.
Everybody good with that? All right, fabulous. But one item I will not forget to do is item number 3 on our agenda, and that is public comment, which is probably the most important item on the agenda for us being a Brown Act committee. So at this time, I welcome and encourage anyone who would like to give a public comment, both in the room as well as on Zoom. If you're on Zoom and you'd like to make a public comment, if you could do us a favor by raising your virtual hand rather than your actual physical hand. Anyone in the room? All right, well, seeing and hearing none, we will go ahead and press on. And that takes us to item number 4 on our agenda, which is the approval of the minutes. And we actually have attached to the agenda, because why not? 2 sets of minutes. We're getting caught up and gratefully this does get us caught up with our minutes. I would like to pause before we review these minutes because I forgot to do so at the beginning, and that is to give a very big thank you to Holly for being with us today. She's going to be helping us out with our meeting minutes for this meeting. So look forward to those when we approve them. At the next Senate meeting. So thank you, Holly. So before you all attach to the agenda are meeting minutes, which you have to go back into the Wayback Machine to remember. And those will be from April 26th and our very last Senate meeting, which was May 10th, which feels like an eternity ago. At this moment, though, I would welcome any senators in the room or on Zoom to provide any revisions or corrections to either or both sets of meeting minutes. I know you all read them lovingly. Just couldn't put them down. We love remembering these meetings. For me, at the end of the semester, I'm like, oh yeah, guess I was there, but not really. Just thinking about my classes at that point. Right, I am not seeing or hearing any suggestions or revisions to the meeting minutes, so at this moment, I would welcome a motion to approve both sets of meeting minutes.
I'm sorry, I wasn't there, but there is a misspelling with Brianne's name.
Wow, which one? Which meeting
It's
minutes?
just in the information item, in the, April 26th.
We will correct that.
Wow, thank you for
Thank you for noticing that. Margarita does her best, you know. Okay, we will correct. Ray's name. How silly of us. All right, so with that correction in mind,
Okay, so move to approve both sets with that correction.
are you making the motion?
Yes.
Kim? All right, Kim is making the motion and Danielle Swantek is seconding the motion. I think because we do have a number of senators online, we have to do a roll call vote. Courtesy of the Brown Act.
Oh, okay.
So senators online, we have a motion on the floor to approve with the correction of Rayanne's name, spelling of Rayanne's name on the floor. So find your mute button because it's audience participation time. So I'm gonna just go down the list here as we have them on our page. Ben,
Yes.
thank you, Ben. Sabrina.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sabrina. Christy.
Yes.
It's your first motion. Congratulations. Thank you. Chris.
Yes.
Thank you, Chris. Katie.
I abstain.
Oh, you were here. That's a good thing to do.
You are allowed to vote for the
Can.
You
Can.
Okay,
Oh,
well,
you don't need to.
And yes, thank you. Is Devonna with us? Not see her yet. Okay, and I think Elizabeth. Oh, there you are.
I don't know where we are.
We are voting on the approval of the meeting minutes.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Elizabeth. Kathy.
Yes.
Has Juan joined us on Zoom?
Yes.
Thank you, Juan. All right, is Jets here? You're in the room or on Zoom. I haven't seen him today. Right, he is absent. Stephanie. Where's Stephanie?
Yes,
Here she is. She's on
Yes.
Zoom. Okay, thank you, Stephanie. Danielle, you can abstain or vote.
I say yes.
She says yes. Thank you. Russell.
Yes.
Thank you, Russell. And last but not least ever, Trisha.
yes.
Right, thank you, Trisha. So those meeting minutes with that one correction have been approved and they will be corrected and then posted to our website. So thank you, everybody. And that does bring us to section 5 of our agenda. And there are a few reports that I just would like to share out with you all. So the first is the president's report. And I would just like to pause and take a moment to thank Melanie for her service, to recognize her need to step away and to be supportive of that, and to recognize that this has meant me stepping in temporarily for this summer. And so I really appreciate all the support here of our senators, and I appreciate the support of our college community. It's not easy to step into this role, and I still have a number of other roles that I performed here at the college. But I do know that it may feel like things are very unsettling, but I have tremendous strength and faith knowing that the Senate is about this body. It's not any one individual person. It is all of us and all of the faculty that we represent, the faculty who represent our students. So we have our strength here in our community, and rest assured, we do have a plan in mind for how we proceed to get a new academic senate president. And so I appreciate everybody. I especially appreciate you all being here in the summer. I know we always have a summer meeting, but it feels hotter than usual. That's just me. All right, so what you see here typed up and written up in my president's report, which I won't belabor too much, is just to let you know that some committees actually, they do meet over the summer, and some work has been going on behind the scenes. I teased the steering committee recently that there's something called, I'm not sure I'm going to pronounce it right, vacation. I'm not entirely sure what that is, and neither do some of our committees. So they are working. So one committee that has met once over the summer is CPC, and we do have Tricia's liaison report. And in a moment, I'll ask Tricia if she wants to highlight anything from her report. But in addition to that regular meeting of CPC, there is a kind of subcommittee that's been meeting a few times over the summer to talk about the structure of CPC, and that's a pretty heavy topic. And so no decisions have been made. No decisions have been made in any of these meetings. But what has been happening at these meetings is voicing a concern for the ways in which CPC hasn't been operating optimally lately. And part of that is the committee no longer feeling that they have a very clear grasp on the charge of CPC. So the subcommittee is actually working on creating a guidebook for CPC so that we have it all there. So when new members join, we have a place to point to let folks know this is the purpose of CPC. And the other issue, which is going to require a lot of communication at CPC, is reviewing the membership. The membership has, since we've moved on to Zoom for that meeting, has really just grown exponentially, and it's gotten a little unwieldy. We actually would be a little hard pressed to find a room if we met in person. For CPC, there are so many people now attending CPC. And whilst it's wonderful to have an inclusivity of voices and representatives from all of our various stakeholders at the college, it has this unintended consequence likewise of making some folks very resistant to speak because it's intimidating to have such a big group. So the subcommittee will be reviewing the membership and perhaps trying to streamline it a little. I mean, to be fair, there are 4 academic senate positions as voting members on CPC. Does it need to be 4? Well,
There's
that's
actually 5.
there are 5 if you count the FA. Yeah.
I think that's.
Right.
I'd have to check.
So that's a lot.
It's just 4 plus 1.
Yeah, that's a lot, and we can have those conversations, and I think what the subcommittee is suggesting we do is that each of the various stakeholders and constituents review whether or not they need that many, right? So that is ongoing. Again, no decisions have been made. I will also just let you know, because while I'm serving as your temporary academic senate president, I am also chair of the curriculum committee, and curriculum never stops. In fact, we do a lot of work over the summer because it's the one time faculty are moving around a lot in that always enduring program called Curriculum, which is the strangest name and spelling. Gotta say, and capital Z. But we are
Better
doing
than paper.
better than paper.
We're not here when
I
there's
was not
paper.
my day.
Danielle was.
Danielle was, there you go. So we're doing a lot of work right now at CEC, and one thing that I want to bring to your attention as senators, because you can expect to be sharing this out at your division meetings, you want to get your faculty prepared for it, is CEC took a very hard look at our distance ed addendum. And we want to make it up to date and current, and to include in that addendum all of the various flavors and modalities of distance education that aren't currently there in our form. We likewise have a very limited set of offerings, but offerings nonetheless for correspondence at the county jail that likewise wasn't in curriculum. So just be prepared that you're gonna see a brand new version of the DE addendum coming very soon. And then I will just share with you all that myself and Kathy and Maria was likewise there. We just came back from the ASCCC Curriculum Institute, and there are a number of things in the works that are happening that will impact college. It'll impact instructors, it will impact counseling and student services. And these are the result of a few assembly bills. And because they're assembly bills, we do have to honor them. And our goal is we can kind of vent and bemoan that they're there, but at the end of the day, we have to find solutions to make these work for us. And so one of those assembly bills is the Assembly Bill AB 928, which is the merging of what used to be the CSU General Threat and the UC I know, Kathy, into something that the students named Cal Getty. And the intention behind that from the legislators was to make it easier for students to have a single pathway. However, whenever you do that, you tend to think there's a one size fits all for our students. In many ways, it doesn't fully appreciate and acknowledge something like our very robust CTE programs at our community colleges. So there are going to be some hiccups. It likewise means because the UCs cannot be legislated to, that they may ask us to resubmit our course outlines of record for their review again. Which is why this is a big deal. So if you get contacted by Kayleen Thomas, or you get contacted by Laura Castro, don't ignore that email. Because that is going into effect very soon. Similarly is Assembly Bill 1111, which is common course numbering. And again, this would apply to all 115 California community colleges. The intent is to make things easier, but what it will end up doing is making things very challenging for us. It also is presuming that courses at different community colleges are all structured exactly the same way. And we know that's not true. Sometimes courses are divided into a series rather than having it all in one single go. And it's worth mentioning that there are 500,000 courses offered at the California community colleges. To presume then that this would be an easy transition, it will not be, but it goes into effect July 2024.
Sure it does.
Yeah, I say. Now, the idea is that we're gonna sort of model it after CIDs, and some of you know what those are, because you know you have to make sure your objectives were worded in a certain way so that they articulate, especially to the CSUs. We have 21,000 CIDs. And those are the ones that we were able to do out of the 500,000. So if we struggle to do CIDs, which allows for a lot of flexibility between the design and the structure of courses, this is going to be hard. So just a little FYI on that. And then just always, and I think this is something that the Senate would like to agendize further for us, is to get an update on what's happening with credit for prior learning. Wires is working away on it. We need to be consistently asking her for providing us with updates and seeing which of our courses are actually articulating. So we'll be inviting her back. And then, you know, Margaret is here today, and we'll invite her back again because there are a lot of changes that are continuing with this ongoing work of guided pathways. So do expect to see all of those coming your way and to put it on the radar of your faculty and your divisions. Last but not least, you know, BPAP has met over the summer. And if you want to talk about a meeting that's a thrill minute, it would be BPAP. But this one, you know, this one AP is something that we all have vested interest in. And that is BP and AP 7120, which deals with hires. So I have brought to your attention that BPAP has been revising and updating all of the sections of this AP. It is a very big AP, but you might want to pay particular attention to 7120A as it pertains to faculty. So attached to the agenda are BPAP suggestions. So share them with your divisions, see what we get. Okay. So with that, I will just mention a moment ago that CPC met, and Trisha, thank you, Trisha, did attend that meeting. She has provided a liaison report. And as always, I will just invite Trisha if she has anything that she would like to share, aside from read the report. Trisha, is there anything you want to highlight?
Well, no, just to mention that, yeah, they did talk about the budget, and, you know, there's, as we know, there's a deficit, but they're looking at ways to increase income and reduce expenses, of course. And then there's also a couple of interesting reports, such as the ACCJC, which I thought was kind of interesting, looking at enrollments for the different programs and why if they're increasing or decreasing, and maybe why that might be happening. That was interesting. Yeah, that professional development as well. So yeah, I won't say check out the report, but you can do that if you want. Links to the reports in the middle summary.
Thank you, Trisha. We appreciate you working on that, especially over the summer. All right, last but never least on our reports, we have I wanted to go back to having a standing item on our agenda for our Vice President of Academic Affairs, and Maria is here with us. She's going to be on the agenda later. Is there anything right now you'd like to share?
There are. First of all, I want to thank you for having me and inviting me to have a standing agenda item. I just wanted to be very cautious about my boundaries with regards to the 10+1, and so this sort of opens the door for the things that I can share with you that are coming up, any updates or anything that I just want to share with you and solicit feedback about in general terms. There are two items. One is the course leaf update, which is the class scheduling software. Where we are with that is we will begin to have bi-weekly meetings with the course leave representatives. We are currently working with them as we speak, building what they call rules, I call parameters regarding the schedule, that allow us to do certain things with the software and don't allow us to do other things, to make sure that it is in sync with our current practices, current scheduling practices. So once that's complete, we will begin to have bi-weekly meetings with the reps. And this is where you come in, which is I would like to have Senate reps on some of those meetings. Preferably, I would say department chairs, to make sure that there is that department chair voice regarding the parameters that we are agreeing to with course leave as regards to the new scheduling software. So I will reach out to you directly, Tara, and sort of ask you for maybe 2 or 3 folks, or if you want to, whoever can make these bi-weekly meetings. They are happening in the summer, unfortunately, because we're hoping to offer course leave training in early October to all department chairs and all interface users or schedulers at that same time as well. And we'll also invite the deans. But so in a nutshell, that's where we're at with regards to the class scheduling software. Yes,
I never know if bi-weekly, twice a week, or every 2 weeks.
you and I are
Okay.
on the same boat here. I have no idea if the course leave reps mean, I think it's every 2 weeks.
Okay, that's all.
But I'm thinking if
Yeah.
it's the
It's
summer
usually-
and it's
yeah,
bi-weekly, if it was bi-monthly, then it would be like one time. But so I'm pretty sure it's twice per
Okay.
month.
Every 2 weeks.
Every
Or
2 weeks.
Twice a week,
I
sorry.
don't know why we
We
just don't
definitely
do that.
Yeah,
That's how.
every 2
Oh,
months, twice a week, so it is a little confusing.
Yeah, thanks for that. The other piece is a brief update regarding the educational vision plans. And so where we are with that is we are wrapping up the contract for the consultant that will come in and assist us, not write the plan for us, but assist us with the development of the outline, the program development piece, a couple of other items that we need help with that the faculty will make use of as well from this resource, wrapping up the contract and hoping that we can start having work group meetings early in fall, starting in August, once the semester begins, where each one of the main areas, School of Extended Learning, Student Affairs, and Academic Affairs will have their each respective work groups that will help contribute to their respective portions of the EVP. And so I too will be reaching out to you regarding appointees. Not sure how you want to go about doing that, but we'll need faculty in this work group as well. Those are my 2 updates.
Thanks, Maria, I appreciate that, and I look forward to those emails, but if you all can likewise look forward to those emails. We put out a call.
One question about course leave, Maria. Are we still thinking that we will launch the scheduling course leave in the summer?
Great question. Yes, the idea is that if we get everyone trained in October, get folks hands-on practice in the fall, we can release, build instructions for summer 24 before faculty go on Christmas break. So that you can sort of play around with the software, but we're still going to use our sort of antiquated system when building the spring 24 schedule. So we're thinking summer 24.
It does make sense because there are fewer courses in the summer and no matter how well you design it, we're gonna find issues. So that makes total sense. Any other clarifying questions? Everybody's happy? Happy-ish. All right. All right, thank you. So that does bring us to item 6 on our agenda, if you're playing agenda bingo. And these are a few information items, and I promise very soon I will not be doing most of the talking here today. I apologize for me having to do a lot of talking here in the beginning. The first item on our information, these are our Senate Subcommittee year-end reports. We had a couple of them on the May 10th agenda, but for the most part, folks hadn't yet had a chance to write up these reports. So you can see who wrote what from which committees. If you're trying to remember which are Senate subcommittees, there's a good sheet for you. They are all listed and who is the chair. And I think for the most part, the names that you see here, they will continue to be chairs of these committees come this current upcoming academic year. And it is really crucial for folks to at least sort of peruse these reports as you get situated and ready for the upcoming year. And this is particularly true for our new and newish, I always say newish for Danielle, newish senators, to see what's been happening, what's been going on, what was left still in the works. And if you see something on there that's of particular interest, we can always agendize it here for Senate so that we can help our subcommittees. Okay, so please don't ignore them. They're a really valuable resource. Particularly mine on CAC, which I think is like 30 pages long or something ridiculous like that.
Pretty though.
We do a lot of work. at CAC. All right, likewise too, I think it was mentioned earlier from Tricia from CPC that we got an update from ACCJC acknowledging that woo, we got the good news that we have been approved again for accreditation. And this was particularly true because they had some concerns over us meeting standard 385. And if you're curious what 385, this is the effectiveness of HR to evaluate all personnel both systematically and at stated intervals. And it's those two pieces that they weren't clear we were doing systematically and at stated intervals. So we have met those concerns and we have been approved. So you can see their approval letter for us. And then I likewise included what's next, what's coming up on the horizon for us for ACCJC. And you can see that our next report will be due in October of 2025, which seems like forever, but it'll come soon. And we will have a visit from ACCJC in 2028. Okay, so those are all on the horizon for you all. Any points of clarification on those? Kathy is sighing.
2028. You'll be very, a very new faculty member still in 2028.
Maybe there'll be a PE building by then.
Maybe there'll be a new building.
So I can
Sorry,
tell you-
Stan,
Yes, please.
The midterm report is also due in 2025.
That's right. That is correct. Yeah. Which again, we'll be honest. If you've ever been elected, or what are you as a voluntold? I like that phrase. To join the work group for these reports, you realize it's a lot of work. So 2025 seems like a long time from now, but it's really not. We have to get started now. And speaking of getting started now, the next item, this is one I really want to bring to your attention, is item 6.3 on the agenda. And these are our divisional representations. So we have a document that was originally actually created by Kim. And we've been updating all of these years. So it is attached there as an editable Google Doc for you all. And I really want you folks to reach out to your division now to see who's serving on which committees, rather than waiting until the week of in-service, because at your division meetings, we all kind of want a sense of which of our committees do not have representation. And you really want to encourage folks to make sure that we are getting our divisional representation. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to add that this report also is required from AP, whatever the number is, about our required college service, 7120, right? And so this report isn't just what you're listing the committee service, but if somebody's doing an alternate service, that needs to be listed too. So it has to be submitted to the Senate president, what your service is. And so this was created to be in accord with that AP. So for the division, all of your full-time faculty, you need to put in parentheses what their service is.
Right.
If they're new, they're exempt. So the first y'all you're, oh, let's do that. You get to put exempt, but everybody else, what is it? Department chair, what committee is it? So clever you invite, what the heck is it? All right, so that goes in parentheses after their name. So I have to warn you, I have that bad English teacher quality. I will be looking over that document with quick edit eyes. So let's get that by after the division meeting to have that updated.
And to clarify, if they're a chair, even if it's co-chairs, then they do not have to sit, is that right?
No, I thought, well, isn't it? I thought one of the co-chairs had to, no, I have to relook at
There's
the.
anything in there.
Okay.
Co-chair.
So I guess the co-chair thing's cool.
I don't know, I mean, I'm asking you.
I'm gonna look again. I don't.
Okay.
yeah,
We'll
okay.
investigate
Okay,
and find out. Yeah.
thank you.
I was just looking over the bylaws and that's just about voting. So I do know for, you have to
Right.
pick something for that, but for this, I'm.
One question. So do you want us to make edits directly on the document?
Yeah, everybody has edit rights. And then I think just Tara or I accept them right now
Right.
as president and
Right.
past president. I can't remember, but yeah, so you should use edit. If you have the power to edit rather than suggest, don't do it. Do it as suggested because we can see the changes, but whatever.
Other than the track changes are on, so
Oh, that's true. We'll be,
we'll be.
whatever works, yeah. And you won't have to do it. Because you won't have, you're as a senator, you don't have that job. As a representing adjunct faculty,
Non-credit.
right?
Well, I see like, I'm on, for example, it says I'm on CAC as an interim, but I've been on it for like 4 years, so I don't think I'm interested. That's all.
That's a good edit to make, yeah, okay.
And to clarify, we should also go through and run these by our department
Correct.
regarding the adjuncts, who's currently an adjunct. all that.
Correct.
Right, it's a way to track who you represent.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Right, so I already tried to, you'll be happy, tried to do this a little bit with the social sciences, because I had access to that information. But it is challenging to try to figure out who's still teaching. And maybe they'll come back, maybe they won't. I will say too, in the past, as a senator, I mean, sometimes it's a little tricky to get folks to respond to me. They're like,
Yeah.
what are you doing? I know you're doing something, and we need to make sure that we're tracking it. So be prepared for that. That's why getting started sooner rather than later is a good idea. And if you do have trouble reaching somebody, you can let me know and I will email them and say, hey, hi. Want to hear about the good work you're doing? Okay, that takes us through our information items. We do have one consent item, which I do believe we need to vote on. Yes, we do. And that is, I put together a steering committee to help me plan for our retreat. Because, oh my goodness, folks, I need help with that. That's gonna be a lot of work, and we will talk a little bit more about the retreat later in the agenda. It's been on the Senate calendar, the exact date has been on the calendar for quite some time. It is August 23rd, but we'll go over that in more details later. Right now, what I have before you are folks who have agreed to help me plan the retreat. And so they do include Elizabeth and Katie, Tricia, and Kim. And so right now, I would look to entertain a motion to approve the forming of the steering committee. Danielle makes the motion. Can I have a second? Second. Kathy makes the second. Again, because we're on Zoom, I have to do a roll call vote. So folks on Zoom, find those mute buttons. So Ben, you're up first.
Yes.
Thank you, Ben. Sabrina? Yeah. Thank you. Christie? Yeah. Thanks. Chris?
Yes.
Thanks, Chris. Katie? Yeah. Thank you. Has Devonna joined us? Don't see Devonna. Okay. Elizabeth? You're like, yes. Oh my God, I'm on this thing. Kathy? Yes. Thank you. Juan?
Yes.
Thank you. Jess?
Yes.
Thank you, Jess. Stephanie?
Yes.
Thank you, Stephanie. Danielle? Yes. Thank you, Danielle. Russell?
Yes.
Thank you, Russell. Trisha?
Yes.
See those? I probably will ask you, Kim. Kim?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. All right, folks, there we go. So that takes us through that consent item, and now we have a big one, an action item, that's requires action and promptly. So I have a slideshow, just a few slides to help for those of us who are more visual, kind of walk us through this. When we get that up and going.
Yes, we need to put that up on one.
Thank you.
Sound is really bad for Zoom, sorry.
I haven't started talking yet.
Oh, okay, just hear mumbling.
Okay. All right, folks on Zoom, can you see a PowerPoint? Is that a yes?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, that's why there's 6 in every group. Okay.
All right, folks on Zoom, I'm gonna make you a little bit small for a moment here, so if you want me to stop at any time, just say, hey. Because I can't see you at the moment. All right, folks, so I mentioned at the start of this meeting that we find ourselves in a rare situation, and it is a rare situation. And that is that we had a resignation from our academic senate president. And if you look at our constitution and our bylaws, then it's very clear what happens. The president-elect assumes the position, only, right, our president-elect likewise had to withdraw. So that leaves us in a situation where we were not entirely clear on what the process should be. And so what I did immediately is I contacted the state academics, the ASCCC. And I was a little audacious, I just went straight to the president. So I sent her an email, here she is. Who is fabulous, by the way, she is fabulous. And I sent her out an email and said, hey, what happens when both of them resign? And to be honest, I didn't quite expect her to get back to me immediately, but she did. So this seems a little urgent, let's talk today. Okay. So she was actually at an ASCCC leadership conference, but she zoomed in because she really wanted to help us. And let me give just a slight plug for the ASCCC. I would love this year for our Senate to get a little more involved with the ASCCC. They really are wonderful. And Cheryl was very wonderful and actually made me feel a little bit better because apparently other colleges have experienced situations that were far trickier. Situations where it wasn't just one person you're missing, but half of the Senate, things like that. So I said, okay, this seems manageable. And what Cheryl said is, trust in your guidance documents, trust in your constitution, trust in your bylaws. There is a process there. Even if this is an unusual situation and it doesn't happen very often, there is a way forward. And so the way forward for us is looking to bylaws section 6, which is a special election. And Cheryl was very clear with me that this is how other colleges have handled similar situations when you have an officer of the academic senate leaving before their term is out. And the idea here, as it is spelled out in our bylaws, which speaks more to senators, because it just happens with more frequency for senators who need to leave midterm, because there's more of us. So that does make sense, is that you need to hold a special election. And in the special election, you are electing someone to serve as an interim who will serve out the remaining amount of time on the resigning officer. So that is what is spelled out. For us, it gets slightly more complicated in that this happens in the summer. And so what our bylaws does spell out for us is that usually in the bylaws, you have to have an election pretty much immediately after the resignation, but because faculty are off contract in the summer, we have to wait until the fall. However, the election has to happen in the first week of the fall. Right, so this is what is spelled out in our bylaws. And just to kind of put this visually, it's going to be a kind of 3-step process for us here at the Senate. To begin with, we will put out a call for candidates more or less immediately after today's meeting. And what this call for the candidates will be for an interim position, someone to act as the interim academic senate president. And this is both the pathway forward, because remember, the academic senate president is an elected position, so faculty need to have their input on who this individual is. It's fine for me to step in for a few months, but it wouldn't be fine for me to just assume position for an entire academic year. That would not be inclusive. So you see here, the call will be that this individual will assume all of the roles and the responsibilities of the academic senate president as are outlined in both our constitution as well as in our bylaws. And then for Melanie, she had 1 year left as the academic president, and then additionally, potentially serving as a past president in the following year. So that would be what our call would be for. For us, because of the timeline in our bylaws, our call for candidates is gonna have to end really soon. And that would be August 29th. We arbitrarily think 4 p.m. just to make it manageable. Okay, so we're gonna put out the call, and then for the election period, we will need to appoint an election subcommittee, and I've already kind of asked Elizabeth to help lead this because she ran the elections in the spring. So with him, yeah. But looking your way, so you've done it gracefully. And in a moment, I'm gonna ask you how many volunteers you would like to help you with this. But the election subcommittee will be responsible then for creating and monitoring this ballot. Okay. That election, again, it has to be held within the first week of the fall. And the winner of the election is determined by a simple majority. Okay, and that's what is spelled out. So for us, that election period will be August 30th to September 1st. No, special elections are very, very quick. This is what we, have agreed upon in our bylaws. So that is there. What this process will allow us to do is that we can then look ahead to our next election cycle, which will be in the spring of 2024, where we will elect, as usual, an incoming academic senate president. Okay, and that will follow the usual process and procedure that we always do. And this individual, that position would start immediately after commencement. Okay, so that is the process. And I'll ask if you hopefully are no longer confused, but you might still be, or any thoughts that you may have. That can to share so that people. Sure. Get rid of that. Whoops, don't do that. Questions? Does this seem clear for everyone and the best way forward? Yep. We don't have a choice. Not really. I guess apparently some colleges are very informal and they just say, they just look at people, but they're not in informal college. No. That gets you a lot of trouble. Yes, that's right for our question.
No, that was a question. I guess not being optimistic, what happens if nobody steps up?
We appoint you.
Yeah. I don't know, it was tough to get the one person that didn't.
Agreed. We don't need to work actually quite diligently on finding someone in the spring. 2024, let's do it, but we have to put out some fillers and we have a few folks that want to do it per year.
Yeah, the person who's coming in the spring usually gets a year to observe, so they won't get that year.
Well, potentially, the interim could, you never can force someone to come back as the past president, but it is there. As the president. Oh, it's like in the last 1 year, yeah, no.
It often doesn't happen, like somebody, like Kenley left when I was president-elect, became president, Melanie, so that happened, yeah, sometimes you don't get that year. And to finish this term, that thing is jive the most, right?
Right. And it is outlined in both the constitution and the bylaw, but that is one possibility for how it works, and then it counts towards your number of years.
And then here, I just read that.
Oh, that's old.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay.
I couldn't figure out how to close the chat without ending the meeting accidentally. So, would shape. Concerns. Just close to concern.
I mean, I guess we'll see what
We'll
happens.
see. I mean, you're taking action, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that it's incumbent on all of us to demonstrate how exciting it is to be part of the Senate for this year. As we look around for people who can be excited to step into this position. Because it's not easy. But as long as it's really like a worthwhile body, maybe we can get more people. And then we can just be, also spend the year being grateful to people like Tara and whoever else is stepping up for this year.
I want to follow up on that in two ways. 2014 was the year I became president a year early, and it was terrifying. I've been a senator a while ago, I've been on PNR since 2016, so it wasn't all new, it was terrifying. So I went to that June New Leadership Institute, took a million notes, right, and then got tons of help. But the reason I ran in the first place was because somebody asked me. I didn't think, oh yeah, I should do this, I didn't do at it, I mean, what? No way, you know? And then I talked to previous presidents, and it wasn't matched for me in terms of my development and what I was interested in. So that's what we need to find, you know, there's gotta be somebody among our full-time faculty who it's that time in their life to learn that stuff. I thought I might want to be a dean, I learned a dean. And then, as Katie was saying, it's scary, it's a lot of responsibility, but it's also thrilling, and it's Dean Evans who graciously put off this sabbatical year to serve as my past president. I mean, it was a beautiful gift, because I needed that. And he loved the college and service, and he said that, you know, the great thing is, you know the college better than anybody. Pretty much, because you are in every group and every meeting. Pretty much more than anybody, and that was really great. He loved this place and understanding how these organisms and communities build. So that was incredible. And then secondly, to pick up again on what Katie said, the faculty voice really, really matters. And we know that, and the voice is not always unified, sometimes it involves identifying the different elements of the voice and then collaborating with staff and administration to find the path. But that is a truly beautiful thing. And I loved not having my opinion anymore. That was very cool. So during those years of your president, it's not your opinion. It is your synthesis of everybody's. And I found that a great gift too. So at any rate, I hope everybody can look around. Look at all of your colleagues here. Look at what's going on. You got to know their personal life well enough. If there's too many demands out, you know, it's not the right time. It is probably maybe unique for English faculty. We have so much grading all the time that there is a certain break in doing this job instead. But at any rate, there's a lot of things that need to match up. Just as Katie said, just keep your eyes open, you know, for people who can do this. And it is really valuable. And I would be happy to talk to anyone. They can talk to me confidentially. They can ask me about people. I'll tell my opinion confidentially. So if people wanted that, it was a while ago. It was 2014, 16, but a lot of things have changed. So, thank you.
Okay. Kathy?
You know, I was president so long ago that nobody ever remembers that. But the same thing happened to me. I never would have thought of doing it if one of the faculty who I really admired on campus hadn't said to me, you know, you should run for Senate president. And I looked at him like he was out of his mind.
Yeah.
And, you know, the first time I ran, I didn't win, and that was okay. It was actually good. You know, sometimes those things are gifts, and the next time I did, and it really is a great experience. And just from a personal note about our Senate, I'm really excited about our Senate this year. It's the first time I've been really excited about Senate for a while. And I think that that's the message we need to give to faculty when we talk to them about this job.
And I also think that we now have a president coming in, new president, permanent as they are. But this is really, really important that we establish a very good relationship with that president. That there's, you know, the collegiality is there, but we still stand up for faculty and faculty interests. I can't think of a more important time right now than to be involved in college governance and to encourage some of our faculty, you know, just sort of go poo-poo about it, but this is the time to really say, hey, this is the make or break time for us. And we really need to make a difference. And we need to make sure that we're engaged and involved and try to get that message across. And I think we do have a great Senate. I'm really excited to work with everybody, and I think that's a really positive thing that maybe we can sell to people.
Yeah, I will just echo that we are a bit on a bit of a precipice. A lot of changes are happening both locally as well as nationally, and it's easy to get tired from all the changes that are happening. That's natural. We've been through a lot in the last few years. But it's also important to remember, and sometimes it becomes a four-letter word, but hope is important. It really is. And I know for myself that sometimes I can get a little grumpy. And then I go back to my classes and I'm like, oh, right, this is why. This is our why and our who are our why. And so rather than saying, oh my gosh, who's gonna, you know, get saddled with this job. We might want to, it is an opportunity. It truly is. So I will be honest, when folks have asked if I was going to run for the interim, and I will not. And the reason why is because I'm chair of CAC. And I'm in a very small department and I need to change, and it's not my time. You know, I'm still fairly new at the college.
People when you came, you know,
Yeah.
it's been here forever, right? I mean, what is it, 5, 6
years, yeah. So it's just not my time, but I will be here to help and support whomever it is. I'm still, you're not rid of me, I am your vice president. And I'll pester you through my role at CDC. That being said, there are many folks who are ready to step into this role. Okay, so I think what I want to take away, what I'm really hearing from our past presidents, is that the crucial deciding factor for whether or not they ran is that they were encouraged to run by a colleague. And so that's on us. That is on us. And to let the individuals know that they're not doing it alone, they're doing it as part of the Senate body. So that is our pathway forward. We do have to vote on this process, to hold a special election. I think my past presidents, you can remind me here about the etiquette of the motion. Is it important for us to appoint an election subcommittee now before we,
I think
do the
we
election
do
and
need-
then the subcommittee?
We need the, oh, I see. No, I think we
No.
first approve
Yeah.
the process.
Right.
And then we appoint the subcommittee, which we've
Perfect.
already kind of started.
I move to approve the process as outlined, as you put out in the slides.
Thank
The
you.
dates, as specified.
Katie made it and Kathy and second it for Polly. Keep it up, Polly. Yeah, okay, thank Polly. And so now we will do a roll call vote. Ben?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Oh, yes, okay. Sabrina?
Yeah.
Thank you, Sabrina.
Yeah.
Thank you. Katie?
Yes.
Devonna, I don't think was able to join us. Elizabeth? Thanks, Elizabeth. Kathy?
Yes.
Juan?
Yes.
Thank you, Juan. Jess?
Yes.
Thanks, Jeff. Stephanie?
Yes.
Thank you, Stephanie. Daniel?
Yes.
Thank you, Danielle. Russell?
Yes.
Thank you, Russell. Trisha?
Yes.
Thank you, Trisha. All right, so we have a process and a plan and a timeline, and now the one thing we need is a group of folks who are willing, I already kind of forcing Elizabeth to do it because she's done it recently. Elizabeth, how many folks would you like to have help you?
We have 3 left. 3 is a good number.
3 is a good number?
Yeah, 2.5.
Are you there? I would love to get 2 volunteers. Not a tremendous amount of work, but the more eyes on this, the better, because lots of wonky things can happen in Google. Danielle,
emails to everyone is always terrifying.
correct,
Just proofread it, yeah.
yeah.
So it doesn't matter if you make a mistake, I'll tell you, right?
I would say folks if you're curious about that volunteer, because we're not, it's mostly about making sure that we're communicating with faculty, and that is through a campus-wide email. And it is the creating and kind of monitoring of what will be, I presume, a Google ballot.
Yeah, so it's like 2 meetings, basically.
2 meetings?
Yeah, it's really simple because we have the template and it's just basically, yeah, it's easy.
Okay, Danielle, anyone else? Who else, I should say?
I'll do it again and do better this time.
3/4.
Yeah.
It's gonna go 3/4.
It's proven.
9 3/4. All right. Oh, Sabrina, Stephanie, that's Stephanie, yeah.
Or is the committee able to meet on Zoom over the summer, or is it an in-person only meeting?
Yeah, we'll do Zoom.
We'll do Zoom.
Oh, I can volunteer then too.
4? We'll have 4, that's great. All right, so just, I'm gonna chat here for a moment with Holly, and we're keeping track of this. We have appointed a subcommittee, you wanna list them, so you know,
Elizabeth, Danielle, Jess, Stephanie.
Got it. And Elizabeth's the chair.
Elizabeth is chairing, okay. All right. Well, that was very effective, everybody. And slightly less painful than I. All right. Cry.
If we cry over this, we're in trouble.
All right. So I am very happy that we have now made it to our discussion items, because it means you can get a break from hearing me talk a lot. So we have a number of discussion items, and first on our discussion, we do have 2 guests here, and that would be our Vice President of Student Services, Paul Arnold, and Jennifer Hamilton from Counseling. Oh,
Should we bring that one
oh,
back?
yes, please.
There, why don't you guys want to be?
Do you want to just take it?
Sure.
Starting, so.
Zoom folks, let us know if you have.
Can you guys
trouble
hear
hearing.
us? I'm gonna put it right.
Tricia gets a thumbs up.
So thank you, everybody, for giving us a few minutes to be here today. And I also just want to take a quick minute to thank Jen through this process. She has been consistently collegial and gracious and professional. So we have a prepared statement that we'd like to read to the Senate, and I'm going to go ahead and start, and Jen's going to jump in a few different pieces and then open it up for discussion if anybody has questions. So dear Senators, we, the Vice President of Student Affairs and the Chair of the Academic Counseling Department, jointly submit this statement to outline our successful collaboration in support of the Emoja program. This semester, the ACC department worked with Rooted in Love, a consultancy group focused on reimagining pedagogy and praxis for justice-centered education. Through 6 sessions led by Dr. Jeremiah Sims, and I do want to add, he is actually here today also. So thank you, Dr. Sims, for being here. The lead trainer for Rooted in Love. ACC explored topics that cohere around race, equity, inclusion, and justice, REIJ. They discussed that there is a nuanced yet important distinction between white supremacy, racism, and anti-Blackness. Dr. Sims argued that while anti-Blackness is a derivative of racism, it is not reducible to because anti-Blackness narrows the level of specificity when examining systems of oppression. Anti-Blackness is a specific and especially pernicious disregard for the joys, cares, concerns, spirits, and corporal bodies of peoples racialized as Black. Anti-Blackness is racist, but it is also so much more. Work can be done to combat systemic racism and still perpetuate anti-Blackness. According to Dr. Sims, this is because anti-Blackness is not an aberration, but rather a foundational element deeply woven into America's ideological and legal tapestry. To underscore the prevalence of anti-Blackness in our national culture, we draw upon a quote from Professor Ruha Benjamin, PhD, from her book Viral Justice. Anti-Black racism, i.e. anti-Blackness, is the soundtrack of our lives, buzzing so low in the background that we don't even hear it, that we don't even realize we're humming along with it, even though we hate the lyrics.
We understand ACC was accused of perpetuating anti-Blackness, and initially this charge stung. We know that this hurts. We also want, in the spirit of transparency, to acknowledge that we too were hurt. ACC felt scapegoated, attacked, and ostracized. Many members of ACC also felt that their commitment to SBCC students, SBC's beautiful Black students, and our commitment to the larger SBCC community was being mischaracterized.
ACC is dedicating to serving Black students wholeheartedly by acknowledging and not exacerbating the opportunity gaps they face due to systemic racism and anti-Blackness. They recognize the need to reduce these gaps and are committed to providing excellent service to all students. As I have shared on other occasions, I admit to not fully adhering to the AP 7120 in its entirety. And in retrospect, I acknowledge that this put the Academic Counseling Center in a difficult position. Furthermore, had I communicated more effectively initially, many of the inaccuracies and assumptions made could have been addressed and mitigated. At the same time, we all recognize that we are still learning and can always do better. During their time with Rooted in Love, ACC also learned about the proportionate response matrix, which helps assess the proportionality of actions in response to mistakes, miscommunications, or malicious acts. We want to emphasize again that there was no intentional malice on ACC's part as they strive to prioritize the well-being of Black students. Initially, their concern was about following the institutional process for defining a position, but they now recognize that their efforts to ensure ACC's voice caused unintended harm. While not solely responsible, ACC apologizes for their part. We also know that ACC's response to the request for an emoji counselor was received as non-empathetic and particularly hurtful to some of the members of our campus community. And for that, ACC is deeply sorry. I didn't speak for you. Maya Angelou wrote that when one knows better, they are responsible to do better. Our plan is to do better together. So we're writing this letter now to affirm our solidarity with the entirety of the SBCC's campus community. We are also writing to affirm our solidarity with our Black students and our colleagues that serve Black students through the Emoja program. Finally, we are adding some important context and intent to clear up any remaining misconceptions regarding ACC's position. The grievance was not filed against the Emoja program or its students and staff. On the contrary, the intent of the grievance was to address a violation of AP 7120 in bringing forward a proposal for an Emoja counselor position for ranking by the SBCC Academic Senate. Ultimately, ACC wanted to participate in the design of the position. After conversations with faculty in the Academic Counseling Department and the Faculty Association, the district has agreed to modify the position that was presented to the Academic Senate in the following manner. The Emoja Counselor Coordinator position that was initially proposed by the administration will be split into two positions: a full-time Emoja Counselor Department Chair and an Educational Administrator or Coordinator or Director position to support Black student success. Separate from this agreement, the district is also working to restructure the current SPA position in the Emoja program as part of the Student Services reorg, and some of the previously presented administrative responsibilities will instead fall under that role. It is our shared common goal that by splitting the responsibilities of the position in this way, it will best support students in the Emoja program.
The Academic Counseling Department remains committed to supporting the Emoja program and Black students. The district has requested the participation of academic counseling faculty in training the new Emoja counselor in collaboration with the current Emoja counselor, Emoja leadership, and other Emoja by counseling faculty. Going forward, we are both committed to proactive and timely communication, not only with one another, but in the retrospective areas of responsibility. Our sincere hope is that we as a community have learned and will continue to learn from this experience. The power of solidarity lies in our collective ability to recognize and address systematic issues
by fostering an environment of empathy, understanding, and support. By acknowledging past mistakes and committing to learn from them, we can move forward together, working towards a more inclusive and equitable future for all. In this vein, we encourage individuals to be courageous in taking steps to mend fences, to forgive one another, and to help us realize a true solidarity between our departments. If you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to reach out directly to myself.
I want to start a conversation here by thanking both Paloma and Jen for committing to doing the work, for providing our college with a role model for how to take what was a very tense situation and to work together in the name of our students, in the name of our community, in the name of our solidarity. I want to also acknowledge that if you're wondering whether or not our policies are often slanted against our Black and African American students, the answer is yes, they are. And we have a lot of work to do with that. And sometimes this can make us feel that the only way around it is just not to follow them. And what that's really suggesting to me is we need to continue our work at revising our policies and not get lost in arguments between individuals and have it become too personal. We can't afford these kinds of ruptures. We just cannot. That is how systematic racism works. It divides us. And so what you both have done is one of the most inspirational things I've seen happen at this college. I think all of us who were on Senate in the fall remember how heated of a discussion this was. And I just really want to applaud your effort to communicate, to mend those fences so that we can, in fact, make real structural change at the college. And as you saw, it takes a willingness to make compromises, which you both did. My real big applause for that. And I really appreciate you voicing it, acknowledging it, that errors were made, perhaps misjudgments were made, even though they were done with the best of intentions, right? There were all of these unintended ruptures that we just can't have. Well, I just am blown away, frankly. Thank you.
Yeah, I really want to acknowledge the councilman faculty, because they're the ones who did a lot of hard work this last semester with the Rooted in Love consultants. So I think that's really important for all of you, but just in general, they did a lot of hard work with the consultants this last semester. So I want to acknowledge them.
Anyone else like to speak? On Zoom? Don't forget my Zoomers.
Oh, there's some there.
Yeah. Please, sir.
Hi, thank you for allowing me to build community with y'all. I just want to commend everyone involved because this wasn't an easy process. From an outsider's perspective coming in, many folks from ACC felt like that our presence there was punitive. And to their credit, and I understand why they felt that way. And we assured them that I don't participate in work that's punitive, so I wouldn't be there for that purpose. And to their credit, irrespective of what they initially thought, they committed themselves to doing the necessary hard work, equity, justice, anti-racist work that challenges misogyny and cis heteropatriarchy. It's hard, but it's always HEART. It's always hard work. And so what they did was they shifted many of them, most of them, and at different levels. Everybody's on their own journey, shifted from a lens where they were looking at what everybody else was doing to a mirror where they began to question their roles in perpetuating systems and thoughts and practices and policies that were anti-Black. Because the reality is, for all you wonderful folks who are here during the summer doing this work, you can come to work and do your job according to the letter of your job description and still promote, perpetuate, and promulgate anti-Blackness because it's woven into our educational system. And so they began to question some of the things that they do. right? If you just do the work that you do the same way that you've always done it and you never question it, then in all likelihood, you will perpetuate some societal ills. But they began to question that, and they began to question their roles in it. And I think the letter, this joint letter, is a manifestation of the reflective, introspective work that they committed to. And this is, you know, for some of them, it's the beginning. For some of them, it was an affirmation, but I don't think that anybody's going back now. I think that they've passed the Rubicon, and I think that everyone that participated, not because we're so awesome, but because they fully availed themselves to the work, they've passed the point of no return. They're not going back to the old way. And so I'm just really excited to see what ACC does next. You know, under Christina's leadership, Paloma's leadership, Jen's leadership, and I'm just really excited to see how they can be exemplars for the rest of the college as well. I think you're going to see some wonderful things from these folks. So anyway, thank you for allowing me to speak. And I just wanted to see this part of the process come to a kind of culmination, and it's really beautiful. So thank you. I just want to echo the words that were already spoken. This is great work, y'all. Thank you.
Thank you. And by the way, you are awesome. Thank you. Thank you both again.
I know everybody's been so eloquent, but to take this moment to dwell on it, it's just really beautiful. It's really beautiful. You gave us it. It's an inspiration. And I hope that if you have some ideas about how to invite others to see that can be possibly a conduit for that. I don't really know. You know, we may have to think about different types of structures, but I believe I speak for all of us that we would like to hear more from what we discover and what Helen and inspiration for all of us. And thank you.
And thank you both again. Really appreciate it. All right. It's always hard to move on after after the hard work. It's hard to move on. But we have more hard work to engage in. And so I'm really happy that Margaret Proctor is with us. I can sort of see it behind. Margaret, would you like me to share the image that you shared with me?
Sure. I also kind of made a QR code to scan in case that.
Of course, if you want to just scan it with your phone for the doc, but.
And for us old people, we just use our cameras, not that ancient QR.
You just scan it with your.
Yeah.
Good to see everybody. How are you all? Hi, everybody in Goodland, and hello, everybody. It's great to see you. These are all draft things on here, so, you know, just think it should.
Cool.
Wait, yeah, we
got
it. You got it. You're good. You got it.
I said here.
Cool. There's, yeah. And I brought party kits. All right, so here we go. Remember the days of the M&M, and then I got told to cease and desist with M&Ms because I was gonna upset the M&M Corporation. Well, that's really sad. Who told you that? I'm not naming names. Nature.
Everybody likes chocolate.
We had M&Ms, so they're meeting.
M&Ms.
I'm gonna get in trouble from the M&M thing. Oh, well, I don't want to upset the M&M. Here we go. So in case you haven't seen these, and if you want them in your offices and anywhere, these are our, thank you so much to our beautiful marketing department for making these. Amanda Jacobs made these beautiful pieces, and it's kind of helpful to see where we've grown. I mean, it's kind of it's been quite an amazing few years here, starting off with just having all of our programs and trying to figure out how they fit in some kind of system to help our students explore. And we started off, if you remember, a lot of you in that group just kind of passing around cards and trying to sort them and trying to figure out, you know, what's an interest area and how do we help students explore and what does it mean. So we have our CAPS and the career and academic pathways and the departments that live in them. And the QR code takes you to the sample program maps built in partnership with our wonderful counselors and department chairs. And all of this good stuff happening, including the student resource finder, the data inquiry and action teams, the guides program, the app, the MyPath. There's an awful lot. And I haven't really necessarily taken up space to tell you about all the details, but maybe now's a good time to start this year with giving you more info now that things are up and running and we're at a place where we are scaling all this stuff. So it's kind of a good time to start sharing all this. So that being said, one of the things we did when we started Guided Pathways work was kind of figure out what do we want? How does this work? It has to be our own, right? It's not the kind of thing where you can just cut and paste what's Bakersfield doing, right? I mean, it has to be, as Al Solano says, you know, homegrown practices. They need to be our own. What we need for our campus, for our students, for our department. And these are all things we've done ourselves. And we're really proud of these, down to even just the language here, calling it nature numbers and engineering, student friendly, warm, welcoming language instead of necessarily STEM, where we know students may, think of themselves not as STEM and so on. So that being said, there's an awful lot going on with these, with the career and academic pathways. Oh, and I brought you the lanyards. I'll pass the bag around and please feel free to take the lanyard for your task. It's a nice, rustly, loud bag, so you can make a lot of noise as I'm talking and drown out everything. So some of the things in each cap, people may or may not know, are, we've got your divisions, got your departments, we've got the maps, we've got a guides team, which are going to be kind of like cap. We've got a Canvas shell we're making that we're going to enroll students in so they can explore all the different departments and learn more about them. And Career Center is involved, and Transfer Center, so we can really start seeing like, what do we do in college? What is an AA degree? What is a transfer degree? How does this all work? What is an ed plan? And we can kind of help students explore those. We've got program goal and award data that we started sharing with department chairs last January, February, December. Said that backwards there, showing the number of students that stay in Banner. This is their goal, their program, and then how many are actually earning those, and kind of discussing that, looking at disaggregated data there, and the department making action plans for how they want to deal with that data. We've got data inquiry and action teams by CAP, by course, all this good stuff, and we're at a point now where we're going to say, okay, we have caps. These are here. They're on our webpage. They're working. Students are seeing themselves in these caps. They're exploring within the caps. Now we're at a place where, as Senate, I think it's a good time for us to embed this in the Senate structure and then see where that goes. If we start thinking of ourselves in caps, and not necessarily departments or divisions, to coordinate all these different pieces going on together within the caps. It seems to me that we could really benefit from communication, collaboration, and problem solving together to support the work within each cap so that we can continually improve the student journey with equity and intentionality. So I'm proposing we try for 1 year a committee, a Senate committee for career and academic pathways, which would comprise of 2 faculty per cap, with 7 caps. And you're thinking to yourself, what do you mean 7? I need 6 caps. That is because one of the links I sent here, we have the kind of 7th cap in process, which doesn't have an image and a name and everything yet, but that is a very important cap. It is our English as a second language, adult high school, GED, LRSEL, because now our maps include all of these. So if you can see what I have on this sheet here for you. And what up here is you. Hello. That's the wrong link.
That's really cool.
The one I have, the second one, where is it? There we have that sheet I just put. Very cute. Here it is. Yes, the bottom. So it'll show you the kind of breakdown of where everything is, but we have 193 degrees and certificates mapped out, but then we also have these wonderful non-credit certificates now linked up. So a total of 285 maps that are live on our website. But this last cap is in development, and that's why that needs to be a very important part of these as well. Again, I'm proposing we try a CAP committee to focus on communicating and collaborating between the CAPs about what everybody's doing to help, again, problem solve and support and communicate together. So I wrote I took a stab at this, I looked through the bylaws and read through some others and got inspired, and we thought, besides faculty, having a guided pathways faculty coordinator, guided pathways student services liaisons, helping run a lot of these groups like guides and so on, our mapping specialist who can help coordinate these pieces. The faculty resource center has been a big part of our work, as is the there's a newer one of this, there's a newer one here that was the draft. So there's a career center director, faculty resource center rep. So I'm going to share this with you. And so you want to, that's that newer one. I sent you we texted you a link to the doc that I made. We had a bunch of other stuff on it. That is an old draft. Way. I'll read it again. So 14 faculty, 1 seat per cap with 7 caps. Guided Pathways faculty coordinator, Guided Pathways student services liaison, Guided Pathways mapping data specialist, career center director, faculty resource center representative, and 3 to 5 at-large members representing additional involved areas such as learning resource center, math lab, transfer, counseling faculty. That's just not on here. The one I QR coded.
The only one missing you do is the only one on updated one, Margaret, isn't it just the career center director?
Yeah, and I also wrote transfer and academic counseling faculty. I spelled it out just to make it really deliberate. So there was no. Yeah. There you go. So in case you want to see it, let's present my option. So I would love to hear your thoughts.
So, you have up there academic senate committee.
Yes.
So it really can't be considered academic senate committee. That's a bylaws change for us, and I really don't think you need that.
Okay.
Also, in our academic senate committees, it's only faculty that get to vote. And everybody else is resource, and I think you probably want everybody on this committee voting. So, I mean, maybe it could be an ed programs committee under Maria. Or it could be a work group that's established. But it doesn't really fit the academic senate. Deal, and also academic senate committees, every division is supposed to be represented on those committees, and that may not happen with the configuration that you have.
I think, Margaret, for you, if I want to just clarify, it's your intention in bringing this to Senate was to elicit support for individuals, faculty who serve on this committee to have that count as their committee service.
That's correct.
And that would, it doesn't have to be a Senate committee for that to happen.
That's correct. Yeah, it's primarily we're at a place where there's so much happening. And we need that collaboration and communication piece to start happening, especially at this juncture where we're still developing, we're still figuring out where it's gonna all come together once we have the Canvas caps and once we have more guides and like all these pieces come together. We need to start building this system in place so that it kind of locked into our existing system, so it makes sense, yeah. So I need your help figuring out the best way to do this. I don't necessarily have the answer, but I'd really love the, the experience and knowledge of this group to help us figure out what that might be.
I just want to, whether the Senate committee is the right structure for this. I've talked with Margaret about this, but I thought this for years, guided pathways needs a home. And Margaret's been kind of bouncing around committee to committee, and it's just not effective. And then people don't know what work is going on. And so I think having some, this committee or something really labeled guided pathways that meets and pulls people together, I think is important. Because it needs a home, because otherwise a lot of faculty don't know what's going on, and this would be a good way of not only getting feedback, but being able to communicate back.
Yeah, as Margaret said, I think it's now is the time for it, right? Before they were doing a lot of prospecting and figuring it out, but now we're ready for that.
Yeah, I would say thank you for that, and I would say, yeah, the idea of, I don't necessarily need it called guided pathways, because whether or not guided pathways ever continues or forever, CAPS will. So CAPS are kind of the important concept.
they are part of guided pathways work, but the life of the CAPS is going to be its own thing that's developed through this structure. Does that make sense? So I don't need it to be called guided pathways, but the CAPS are the ones that I think would benefit from this kind of space for communication and problem solving. So, thank you.
Question. I'm intrigued by the Senate structure for a year. You know, the guided pathways ethos is experiment and discover and kind of learn from the experience. And I love what you said, Danielle, about how she's been in so many different groups and committees and worked across campus. The Senate has a particular voice and role on the campus. And I think the work, as Margaret highlighted, guided pathways versus the name of this, which is these CAPS, it's moving into it. I know in English, we've had some data inquiry teams that really relate to our pedagogy practices, and it's fed into our redesign of our course outlines of record. So it's like, there's just so much going on from the instructional pedagogical area that relates to both equity, use of data, problem solving together, developing how to build community. And so I understand that question about where, but I just feel like the structure of the Senate is a really valuable support for possibly this year. And then we could reevaluate. So we could make it an ad hoc through the Senate. I mean, we don't have to, we are revising the bylaws for this year. So maybe we could throw it in for this year because we do it every year. I mean, they're very flexible because we just do it. So I'm intrigued by the structure. PSS doesn't have divisional representation either, I don't think. I was trying to look and I can't. Faculty partnership, right, so then it's an academic senate committee that does not have divisional representation.
PSS doesn't.
Right, that's what so I think it could happen across the CAPS, and that could be like the goal, but I don't think that would exclude it from being a Senate committee. So I'm intrigued by the experimentation, and also, as I said, home for this year. I think there'd be some things to discover about that integration. That's all. I'm just brainstorming, but I love trying stuff. That's all of my bias.
Other thoughts? What I am hearing is support. And support, and I think we're trying out a few possibilities, just how we make it happen, but I'm hearing overall support by the Senate like that.
Thank you. The definite service credit, who's ever on this.
That's some kind of a no-brainer.
Right, and then what does it mean if it's an ad hoc, like where it is, that kind of thing. So it's a discussion for today. So do people have other questions or concerns? We wouldn't take action now, it'd be for our next meeting. We can talk about it at the retreat, we'll be figuring out our division discussion. It could be discussed there.
I guess I have a question. What would be the difference between a Senate ad hoc committee? Is it just calling it something and not making it official, or like what is there some structural that's
Trial
different?
doing it, I think is what just defining it.
Cool. It implies that you wouldn't need it to continue, I think, but I think it's also an easy way to experiment. So, right, whether we like stuck it in bylaws now or did an ad hoc and decided at the end of this year, what would they, right? Good point.
I think the relationship with student services is so important here. This isn't just ed programs, this just isn't academic senate. This leads into and has to have that combination. I mean, you can't do this without all the people in student services. So I think whatever we call it is fine, but I think it really needs to make sure it's not really academic senate, that it's, and not that academic senate doesn't include the others, but I think a lot of other areas and in your area needs to be involved in this and included. And so it's a different type of structure, I think, and maybe we need to come up with a new idea. But for a year, we could test it out and see how it fits. And the other thing is, Margaret, do you think this is going to be an ongoing, can you see this sort of, we try to look at sort of committees that we're permanently installing a sort of long-term committee service, or is this more short term as we get things going and organized? And you don't have to answer that question right now, but I think that's one of the questions that we would ask and how we put it into the administrative structure either way.
I guess I need a little, in order to like frame it, following on that, of what the charge of the committee is. Did I miss that or?
Communicate, collaborate, and problem solve to be able to support the work within each CAP to continually improve the student journey with equity and intentionality. It's primarily about communication and collaboration and problem solving. So of all of the different things happening within the CAP, there's one place where everybody can learn about it and talk about it together. So we don't have a space for that kind of collaboration and communication right now. So for example, when we have guides reaching out to students and they're uncovering a particular issue, we don't have a space or a way to like communicate that problem and get that fixed in that place. When the data inquiry and action team disaggregates data by a particular course and finds something out, there's no necessarily process for connecting that to the department plan, dealing with that data. Like everything's just satellite right now. We're wanting to connect pieces that are working. So now that we've had a chance to try out some different things and see which ones work, which ones we want to continue, like, okay, now how do we connect all of these so that they're more in line with each other and we're in sync? So does that make sense a little bit? And so I think to Kathy's point too, that about whether it would be ongoing or not, I think part of the charge of this year, if it's an ad hoc year, would be to figure that out over the course of the year. I would not be the one to presume to know how to answer that, but I would imagine the people in this group, as we learn and do it together and grow, by the end of the year, they'll know a good recommendation of how to proceed. But I do think a lot of it is academic based right now, about pedagogy, about what's going on in the classrooms, about what students are experiencing here. There's the students services side, but they have their own structures for dealing with those things. And this is the space for all these other pieces that we've already had these conversations that department chairs are looking at. And does that make sense? And the reason why it's helpful to look at it by CAP is that the needs of each CAP are vastly different when you look at the data. So for one example, when the data inquiry and action team for performing arts, for example, started looking at their data, they found that the students who identified they were going to be an arts major were very successful at succeeding and getting that degree, but they were not having the same numbers of disproportionately impacted students entering the programs. Versus, for example, healthcare, wellness, and public service had a huge number of students identifying nursing, only to find out later that they want to really do radiography or kinesiology or some other piece in there. And their charge is how do we help students connect to that sooner and find out all their options sooner. Culture, society, human behavior. Remember when we were doing our data, our department data, that's when the idea about like sociology, anthropology, and psychology coming together to help students really parse out the differences between these fields and what kind of careers and things you do with them, how we approach problems differently. Again, each CAP has a very different need when you look at the data. So it's really helpful to pull all those together, but think of them CAP-wise. That help rather than department or division as we look at the whole student journey.
I have another question. So worst case scenario, Senate says, no, we don't think this should be a Senate committee. Where would you go with this idea?
Where should we go?
Here's my reason for asking that is like, I don't want you to spend the whole year trying to find a home
Yeah.
for this particular committee.
Yeah.
That's, you know, I would rather it be a weird ad hoc Senate committee and happen and then figure out like it should really be located someplace else, rather than making Margaret go from meeting to meeting begging that her committee could be housed under this particular part of the college. So
I am hearing support for a trial year, because I think we don't know what we don't know, right? Right, so we need to start to actually get into the work and figure it out. Maybe we'll discover that it is a perfect academic senate subcommittee. Or maybe we'll decide more of a college-wide committee.
It could be a CPC.
Yeah.
College-wide.
Yeah, so I am hearing support for trying it out.
What information do you need from me to help for the next meeting? Would you let me know and I can put together a brain?
Maybe we could create a Google Doc for folks to ask questions if you're amenable to that.
Sure, and I would also be really happy to come to the retreat in August and talk to you more about. You may not know about My Path, or you might not know about the guides program, you might not know about the Data Green Action Teams, or, you know.
Well, you're gonna have me come back in the fall too.
Yeah.
Don't better three of us.
Give some of these
You've got a lot to share with
Yeah.
us, yeah. Kathy,
And maybe talking with Paloma and Maria
right,
to see how they see it fitting. They might be creative and have some ideas about how it could be for a year. Like, I mean, I don't care if it's considered ad hoc committee. I'm okay with that, but I think including them in the discussion would be good too, because this really is college-wide, I feel. I mean, you've got a lot of people from student services that you want on your committee. So it's not just on the academic senate side.
I have a question about that, because like, I think most of the people are faculty, and it's, the student services are faculty, so it's like,
Yeah.
I know that there's guided pathway, I know there's spas, and I know there's staff involved, but I don't think. If you look at these caps, they're all our departments,
Mhm.
it's academic.
But a lot of people they want on the committee
There aren't that,
infused into the. It doesn't matter to me. I'm in favor of it. Do whatever you want to do, but I think the more input you have from the people on campus here, both areas, the more ideas we might come up with. I mean, let's be creative.
Well, I just was gonna say, there are many aspects across the campus that are involved and have been involved in guided pathways. You said Amanda, created these, so, I mean, obviously, it could be banners, it could be for sure student services. But this could be a committee that really focused on the sharing of communication across academic departments and sort of troubleshooting and finding, ways to borrow from what other people have found to be successful and apply them to your own department. So it sort of could be a sort of aspect of guided pathways that really focuses on the academic journey for students. And I think that could be a great way to share.
I agree. So again, Margaret, I am hearing support from our Senate. We want to find a home for our caps and the work that is going on. And I am personally supportive of the idea of just trying it out and seeing what happens, what shakes out, and what we didn't know would happen. There are always those things that are surprise.
Be a learning committee.
So as Kim mentioned earlier, it's a discussion item today, and we'll agendize this for an action item on a future agenda. So you can start sharing this with divisions for their feedback and their input and insights. And again, thank you, Margaret. You're gonna be invited back.
Cool, thank you. Can I say one lesson before I go?
Yes.
Please go see Guys and Dolls. There's
Oh,
7
yeah.
more shows. There's one tomorrow night. It goes to the weekend, right, Katie? And then one more
yeah.
next week. Fun, great evening, fun for all. Go support our theater department. I've heard.
Broadway.
Tonight.
Yeah.
All right.
I think, a very biased person told you that.
You know,
One last thing on this committee thing, if we are gonna give faculty committee service credit for being on this committee, we don't want to wait too long because
That's why he's here.
well, but you said it's gonna be an agenda item and we're gonna do something
It's gonna have to be
quickly,
very
so
quick,
it's
yeah.
gonna have to be relatively quick.
Yep.
That's the plan.
That's the plan. We're in sync, Kathy. All right, everybody. So that brings us to our next item, and it's a big one, but I want to stress here, so I'm looking at the time here and acknowledging we don't have much longer in our meeting here today. But I want to really acknowledge this is the start of a conversation that I want to introduce to us now so that we can start eliciting feedback from our division, and particularly those who are engaged right now in teaching this summer. As you see here on the agenda, I provided a little bit of context for this discussion. This is the first time that we have gone from having 2 6-week sessions to 1 10-week sessions. And built into that schedule was a lot of flexibility for the instructor to determine how many weeks the course would be. And we've already, I say we, but the royal we, have received some feedback from instructors on some of the challenges to this new schedule. And it's our job at the Senate to find solutions to these challenges. So we need to start figuring out what those challenges are. So some of those challenges include, particularly in the beginning, the students were a bit confused with all of these classes being staggered and starting and ending at different times, and that's something we can easily work on. Some folks that have noted too, that because they wanted to still have 2 sessions where a course could be offered, they shrunk it down to 5 weeks. And they have noticed that there are some complications in doing that. It's a very accelerated pace. And this may or may not be correlated, but an increase in AI generated submissions for work. We all know students can feel really desperate. You know, it's not that they're trying to cheat, they're just, you know, feeling desperate.
Of course, they're.
What do you mean? There's also been a little bit of confusion too from the instructor side about when exactly grades are due. And then these are all things that we can work on. So to start this conversation, you are to share some of the actual data on enrollment and what's going on thus far.
Thank you so much, Kara, for inviting me. And I'm gonna start out by saying that. Ooh, where did everybody go? Can I bring
Don't
them
worry
in?
about it.
Very hard, not worried about them. Okay, got it. Hi, everyone. I do acknowledge that you are on Zoom. And so one of the things that I'd like to start out with is that I am not a data expert. However, I am going to try my best, particularly when it comes to asking questions about the data. And so what I was asked to do is to sort of share a data analysis between summer 23's new session format compared to summer 2022 with regards to various metrics: enrollments, fill rates, FTEF, FTES, number of sections, and of course, productivity or efficiency, or however it is that we'd like to refer to that metric, that particular metric. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to try to zoom in. Well, maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I just highlight the section that I'm going to be speaking to. Okay. Can everyone see that on Zoom? The highlighted blue that I'm going to talk about?
Yes.
Yes, thank you so much, because I can't see if you're nodding. So the first metric is regarding enrollments. As of today, based on the data that was pulled from our schedule table in our system, IR has confirmed that these are the actual numbers as of today. And as of today, we are showing a slight increase in enrollments in summer 23 compared to last year. And so that's a good thing, right? Then we have here the number of sections. And so that one shows a decrease of number of sections in summer 23, which is a good thing when we're looking at it from a productivity or efficiency lens, right? We want that number to be down if our goal is to increase productivity. Then we have actual productivity. That too is a little bit of a good news. We have a slight increase in productivity. We are teaching more students with at a less cost, slightly. And the next one here is fill rates. Now, fill rates, we've significantly increased with fill rates compared to last summer. You know, at the end of last school year, there was a lot going on. I was being interviewed as we're speaking here, right, a year ago. Kathy was wrapping up SEM, There's a lot going on last year. The schedule was not our very top priority, I can tell. And so this year, of course, is different because I'm here a year now, and so summer is the first session that I was able to sort of administer under the new configuration in academic affairs. Where, you know, the scheduling office went from Dr. Kuhn to me, so I was able to pay a little bit more attention to what was going on there. And so that speaks to this piece here. Then we have FTES, which we are a little down, even though we have more seats, more students in seats this summer. FTES are not are showing a decrease, not huge. It's less than 4%. And so that's that. The last one I'll share here before I go into the most interesting piece of the data I think that you will find is the last one is FTEF, which means that we are producing almost the same amount of FTES with less money, but it's costing us less to do so. That's what this means. We also, with a productivity lens, we want FTEF to be lower, okay, if that's the goal. Now, here's the real interesting stuff here that I'm going into. Table 2 is, oh yeah, you can see that there. Table 2, do you need me to zoom in a little bit? Yeah. There we go. Okay, that's better. So this here is actually data broken down by the length of classes for summer 23. As you know, it's the first summer where we're offering, you know, a 10-week session or 8-week session or even 6-week sessions, right? Because of the new 10-week session. And so what you see here is 163 sections are offered as 5-weekers, and so on and so forth. And what you ultimately see here is that the 5-weekers, and later on we'll see which of the two, the first session or the second 5-weeker session, has the highest fill rate this summer, right? Which is almost 80% fill rate, right? Look at the 10-weekers. 33 sections being offered as 10-weekers with a 66.4% fill rate this summer. Now, we don't have time to go into what does all this mean. And so what I'll do is I'll share this data with you guys so we can think about it. And then, you know, also caution us from making permanent decisions based on one summer term only and one, you know, especially since it's not over yet. I mean, we are in week 6.
We still have
Right.
quite a few classes in PE that will fill later.
And sorry, is your speculation that those were just more popular because they are more efficient and students feel they can accomplish things more quickly in 5 weeks? Or do you have speculations about what it means?
I always have speculations. But I think I would be, it would be more judicious of me to wait and have the space and time, more time to actually engage in the conversation. Because in some cases, it's sort of like the chicken and egg situation. Is it that they're more popular because students want those shorter sessions? Or are we not offering enough of longer length sessions, for example? So there's, you know, it's complex, right? And the other piece too here that I want to point out is that, yes, if we're going to define popularity by fill rate, yes, the 5-weekers are more popular, but let's look at successful course completion rates,
Right.
which we don't have here, right?
Yeah.
So we should talk about this.
Yes.
One whole meeting just about. Let me just do one more.
When we have all the data.
Yeah, so we have the data, and I know Jess has a question, but you know what? I'm not administering the meeting, so would you like, Jess to ask a question, or would you like me to finish first?
I was just curious if the fill rate included courses that were canceled, like the percentage.
No,
No, okay.
it doesn't include, this data here does not include canceled sections. It also doesn't include open exit, open entry classes. And it also, I've asked that they remove sections with 0 enrollments, so as to not skew the fill rates.
Oh, wow. They have been removed or they need?
They have been removed. Because what we, otherwise, we're not looking at actual fill rates, right? And we still have the primary section anyway, that capture the enrollment of the cross-listed classes, so we're good. So here you can see, summer 2022, the fill rate was 67% average of the two, considering the 2 sessions. However, in spring and summer 23, you see here, the fill rate has increased a little bit, slightly. So there's this piece here, and the last piece here is again, summer 22, the previous section where we saw the different lengths, right? The different number of sections per length course, that was for summer 2023. This is what would happen last summer, last year. So
For both summers together?
yes, they are combined. That's right. So there you have it. And I'm happy to answer any questions to the best of my ability.
One thing I want to highlight about the fill rate, I remember, because I was involved last summer in this one, we kept more low enrolled face-to-face classes open last summer, because we were trying to bring people back and honor that. So I'm pretty sure the fill rate difference is that, even though this year we canceled one in English, that we kept open. So that would be interesting to disaggregate by modality. Because I think we really see the fill rate difference for that. And even that one's not face-to-face, it's smaller than that.
Yeah, and I'll be curious because the most disaggregating the data, what it looks like by department. In terms of what is working for the length of the course, and then looking at disaggregated data on how they identify. Which of our student populations are really benefiting from the longer sessions versus the extremely compressed.
So I'm glad you brought that up. We have a brand new dashboard in Tableau that is titled Daily Enrollment Detailed Something Report. And that one you can filter by department, and you can filter by for state daily enrollments, and you can filter by modality.
So this is one I think we should do it.
That would be really cool.
So I'm really, I feel, I want to also say that I'd like to credit the department chairs and the deans for anything that you can see as an increase from this summer, from last summer. They were the ones that helped me do this. It was not an easy task, because that meant that we had to cancel low enrolled sections, and that affected many of our faculty, particularly part-timers. But as an institution, we do need to be more productive. We just do. And at the same time, we want to make sure that we continue to meet the needs of the students. It's a difficult task.
It's a good question. I know that I was just looking at summer data, and some of the departments had all these sort of crazy staggered starts. It was really hard to know when things were being taught. And then I was also looking at the TLUs, and I'm like, these people are teaching way too many classes, even with the staggered start. And it just seems like as we work through this, if there could be some standardization, because I would have had participants even try and figure out how to create a summer schedule. So, I mean, I appreciate the flexibility, but it also just seems hopelessly confusing.
And you're not even talking about prereqs.
Yeah.
This is one of these areas that we can't.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, in the normal course of our scheduling, we do have these windows, right? But I mean, without that, without the standardization, it impacts everybody. It impacts the students, it impacts students taking more than one class because maybe, you know, one is starting here, one's starting weeks later, they can't make a cohesive schedule. It impacts their ability to have employment. So even though it was a bit of a laissez-faire free-for-all this summer, it may be better to have some standardization.
I'd say it makes sense to do it that way this summer, because we're trying things out.
Right.
We should wrap up.
Yeah, I was just wondering, are this gonna be on a future agenda items going to more detail? Because yes, in terms of our department, there's a lot of feedback that we'd like to provide for the needs of the student.
It is absolutely a hot item that we're gonna talk a lot about at our retreats. And I wanted everybody to have the context before we have our retreat, so I really want to thank you for sharing all of that data with us. So I am gonna, we'll wrap up the meeting, but I'm gonna give us a little bit of homework because we did not get through the agenda. And my apologies to Cornelia.
I know.
However, the documents that Cornelia would like us to review are attached to the agenda. So please do, and he has brought this to study attention a few times. And that is the work that the FAA is doing on providing evaluations and even the forms. So the FAA has created the drafts of revised versions of the forms. So have a look at that. One last thing before we end our meeting. If you do take a look at item 9.6, there's some information here about our retreat. I will be, however, communicating a lot of this information as well. But you can see here that our retreat is scheduled. It has been for a while, August 23rd, 10 to 2. It will be on campus. But it's in the press box, so we'll have a view and free parking. We will provide snacks and lunch and listed here for you all are some of the items that we will go through. The retreat is an opportunity for us to do a little bit of training from the Senate. There are some updates, for example, to the Brown Act that we need to review. But a lot of what will happen over the retreat is associating these issues so that we then are prepared for division meetings. We have there. So that is the information is there. So please have a look at that. And I'm sorry, campus once again, your item on posting night classes all on one side of the campus. We will have to wait. They want to so thank you all for staying a little bit later. I'm just going to adjourn leave my application. So. Thank you.